for those of you who don't know Donny, he's actually, I would say, relentlessly pushing forward when it comes to improving things. So he's really the person who tries to get everyone out of a kind of a status quo and to always push everything to a better state. His first talk at the JavaScript meetup was also about solving an issue that he had and others have as well. You can check out his talk on our YouTube channel, and you will see that during his talk as well that he is a guy who kind of innovates on things and builds things. And I would say more or less he's also a real life adventurer and avid reader. So Donny, thanks again for doing the talk, and I hand over the stage to you.
Thank you, Norby. Welcome, everyone. I will start with a little introduction about me. So I started learning JavaScript in the middle of 2018, and first I learned React.js and Node.js, and I landed my first job soon after as an Angular developer. So I was working in frontend, but that was not enough for me. So in my free time, I was also experimenting with different technologies within JavaScript. I tried so in my last talk, I was talking about sort of a mobile application. It was running in the browser, so it was not really mobile, but it was an audiobook player app. And since then, I've been experimenting with cross-platform solutions as well with Angular, because I really grew to like the framework and all the benefits that it offers. And after a few years, well, like a year and a half or 2 years of experimenting, I came to a stack that I really enjoy using. I see a lot of potential in, and tonight I'm going to share you the combination of these technologies that I have been employing the past couple of months, almost a year now. So can we share my screen? Oh, okay, I have to click, I guess, share screen. Okay. All right, perfect. So this technology is nothing else than the combination of 3 frameworks. One of them is, of course, Angular for the front-end development. The other one is NestJS. It's a backend framework that is built on Express, or you can actually use Fastify as well, which makes it even faster. And then the other framework that makes it possible to build native mobile applications is Ionic and actually Capacitor. So right here, you see my IDE, and I have a project that we will do sort of a live code review session here, and I will walk you through of what I've been working on since last summer. But first, so what do we have here? Well, I've been always fascinated with developing applications, so not really websites, but real apps instead. And here, last summer, I started experimenting with these tools, and I really found them enjoyable to use. And what do I want to achieve with this? Well, it's all just one language, and Angular and Nest are built in a similar fashion. They are modular, very well scalable in terms of development. And with this, you can build to the web, you can build to iOS, and you can also build Android apps with just one single code base, so that you can deliver mobile applications real quick. And right here, this is actually a base. So here we have a couple of projects. Right now I have 4 different applications, and then they have a shared base where there are all kinds of different stuff implemented, so that if I want to make, let's say, a 5th mobile application or cross-platform application, I can just add it here into the projects folder, and then I have access to a lot of really good stuff that I don't need to implement over and over again for each new application. So what do I have here? Well, I have some backend libraries, and I also have some front-end related code, and you will soon learn why this is so handy. In the backend, I have an authentication implemented with user management. I have an adapter for MongoDB and also for SQL. So all the schemas are implemented, and if I start a new app, I already have user management, login, and email sending, and all of that stuff implemented, so I don't need to do it again. And in the front end part, like UI and core folders, I have a bunch of animations, native functionalities like keyboard or haptics, and so on. And of course, a UI kit. So let me show you what I really like about NestJS, which is the backend side of the app. So this is the shared place, and this is what all the apps build on. And here in the modules section, I already have access to a push notifications module, email sending client, and databases for MongoDB and SQL. So these are the modules itself that make the connection. And what might be interesting is the authentication part, which has implementations for both MongoDB and SQL, which is, by the way, I'm using an ORM, so it could be, I'm using MySQL, but you could use different SQL databases. And the way it works, I have a global configuration for each application. You can set up which type of DB you use, and then it loads the correct module for that particular DB. So for example, for SQL, we are using Sequelize, and of course, because it's NestJS, it's super TypeScript. It's like using all the brand new features of TypeScript, including decorators and the Angular's service and module architecture. And I think what's interesting here is that this is the repository layer, but I think what's really good is the models themselves, which must be somewhere. Let's see. User model. There we go. So this is a regular TypeScript class with some decorators, and the database schema itself is declared just like a simple class, which makes it really easy to read and easy to interact with. And it's also yeah, I forgot what I want to say, but it's good to use. But of course, it does have some limitations. And we also have the same thing for MongoDB. We have a very similar syntax, and it is declared as such. Okay, so that's for the repository layer. Of course, it has its limitations, and if you need to write something more performant, you can always write a row query if it's needed. But most of the cases, it works quite well. So I've been also talking about that each application has its own configuration. So it's because you need to build for two platforms, Android and iOS. They each have their own configuration files. It's quite hard to keep all the configurations in sync, especially when you want to build one of the applications and then you need to switch to another app. And for this reason, I've created a CLI tool with which you can set the configuration for each app. So this is one of my hobby projects, but I also work on two applications that will be soon available in production. One of them is a gym app, and the other one is a property management application. And for the gym app, you will soon see some demos. I will show you how it looks and what you can achieve with this kind of technology. So the gym app is, I only developed the front end of it, and the other one, the property management app, I also developed the backend for it. And here I have all of course, I changed the values so that you can't really copy it. You can try though, it doesn't matter. And so I can just easily set up and change all the variables, even depending on the different environments that I'm using it. So it can have a different set of configurations for each environment. Right now it only has development and the default, which is the staging environment. And when I run the script for the configuration setting, it will generate all the files like the proxy config, the native configs, and it will get everything ready so that you can start developing and you can switch between apps very easily. So let me show you how. Let's start one of these applications. So I type in this is the script. I have an alias, so it's just a shortcut. This is the application name, and let's start it in mock. And then it will shortly start up. And of course, this is a work in progress. So just lately, I did a big refactoring. I separated the base app and all the different projects so that the base app is a repository and all the different projects are in different GitHub repositories, so that if somebody else joins me in working one of the projects that I work on, I don't have to share all the source code with everybody. I only share the source code for the base app, which is general files that are not specific to any of the applications, and then I invite them for just one of the repositories. And I'm using something similar to submodules, but I'm not actually using grid submodules because I found it an overhead, but I'm just manually maintaining the repositories. And we can see that it's building, generating the bundles. And if everything is working correctly, we will see the application load up in the browser. Now, of course, when you're done developing, you can always create a native bundle, and you can deploy it to your mobile phone, or you can even install the app, the frame on your phone, and you can see your app live. So you can develop and check the functions lively. You don't have to build every time, which makes it really easy to develop, because when I'm trying out native functionalities, I can just quickly save on my files and it will rebuild it. And within a few seconds, I see the results. So this is pretty basic. I have some animations. If you see how it loads and the toolbar and the bottom bar kind of floats in. And I have a couple of menu points, which also have some cool animations. We can swipe. We can create some stuff, and which might be noteworthy is this swipe-based animation, which is also tied to the routing. So this was some of the harder parts to implement, but it works really well, and it's possible thanks to the really good tools that Ionic gives you. It has some good gesture-based animation tools, and I'm using those to make this swiping-like animation. And let's see what else. Let's see what kind of animations we have here. Okay, let's go back. And let me open one. Let's go to the groups. And here, which I really like, this is one of the cool animations that I made, is when we switch to edit mode and all these things, they go together. Now you can't save if you don't have any items. Well, they all disappeared because this is mock and they all have the same IDs, so it just made them disappear. So you can create pretty good stuff that it's not laggy. It doesn't feel much different than a native application, but it does give you the benefit of not having to write the code for both platforms. And even if you do that, you still need to write a third application that you can deploy to the web. And this way you can do all this at once. Let's see. I have some other cool animations that I want to show you, and then I will also show you some code too. So this one took me like 3 days to make this, but it takes some time, it takes some learning and experimenting. And the goal of this whole thing that I'm working on, is to get to the point when I will have most of the things that someone could need in a web application, in a mobile application, and I will have a library or some piece of code for everything, so that I don't have to focus on learning how all this stuff works. I will already have the services and the modules that I need, and I can just put the pieces together. And of course, there's always need for some customization, but it comes really handy. So for the last part, I will show you this other app. It's called, it's this one, HeartMind. I decided to make this 2 weeks ago, and well, it's nothing too much, but I made it in 2 days. I decided on Friday morning, and by Saturday night, I had the backend deployed to Heroku, and I had the front end working with it. So how does it look? It's using the API that I have, so I didn't have to write one single line code of for implementing user handling. So I could focus on writing the logic for the app itself. It has two important folders. One of them is the API folder, which has the backend code, and this is Angular's modular architecture that we separate the code into 3 different parts. Service layer, which is kind of the business logic. We have the repository layer, which you already saw in the authentication module. So this is everything related to data persistence, accessing and saving data. This is the service layer, which is, well, it's right now it's just a proxy to the repository layer, nothing crazy here. And we have the controller layer, which is responsible for receiving the API calls. And this is how a controller looks like in NestJS. Super simple. You have the path here. You have the request methods, and in this context interface, there is the user object. So the user ID and all the data that we need is already extracted from the authentication token, and we can start working with it from here. So this is where the front-end app meets the backend, and let me take you to the front-end part. So this was the API folder, and now we look into the SRC, and here lies the front-end part. This is just the core stuff, the application itself, and in the modules part, it has an authentication component and the application itself, which is, again, very, very simple. It has a service layer, source service especially. This is responsible for receiving the data from the backend. So this is kind of like the controller, but on the front-end part. This is where these two meet. And here is a simple service that requests and stores the data and returns it to the components when they need it. And I have 2 views. I have a kind of a welcome screen, and in the welcome screen, they enter some stuff they want to do. And then in the item view screen, you can check how often you do something like it's for building habits. You will see very soon how it looks like. So you saw this Gym app. Now let's start up the other application. And actually, this one I will start in development mode. So it will also start the backend and the front end all at once. And once the script starts, I will be ready and I can start development. I don't have to do anything else, which comes really handy. So this can also build production builds. It copies all the native configs, so it's really useful, and it's really needed for developing apps like this, because otherwise you would have a lot of manual steps. And it takes some time, of course, while it compiles all the code. In the meanwhile, we can explore some of the front-end code that we have in the libraries. So one thing is the animations folder, which is like one of the most visible parts of the app, which makes it look cooler. But then there are also a lot of useful directives that add on special features to each components. For example, this is this peak and hide directive, which you saw here. It's actually this, it's responsible for this animation logic. And it has a couple of different gesture listeners, which is provided by Ionic. And then it builds the animation based on the gesture and whether now it's closed. So whether whether it was visible or closed, so it was a close or open animation. So here we have the app loaded in. Let me just quickly log out, which is not yet implemented. So I just clear the local storage, the token, and reload. And right now we have a very basic login screen. No logo yet. And we will create an account. My password is ASD 3 times, by the way. We log in, and we have logged in through the API, so the backend is running locally right now. Well, we have registered, and well, it's very basic. It's just a simple CRUD, something you want to learn through action. What could it be? Let's say I want to wash my dishes every day. Okay, so that the dirty dishes won't compile up in the kitchen, which is pretty annoying after a while. I click on continue, and then, oh, okay, I made a typo, whatever. And then here I can just kind of click this little heart icon if I did it today, and I click on this square if I didn't do it. And well, it's just for showcasing, so it's pretty basic. It doesn't even check if you already entered something the same day or not. You can see the date below it, and in the bottom there is a little like statistics, how many times you did it, like achievements, and how many times you did wash your dish in a row. And once you complete one of the columns, you can proceed to the next stage, which is not yet implemented. So this is all that is. And you can also revert if you misclick, you can undo your logs. And you can see that in the network tab, each time we click, a new call is made to the API, and then it gets updated. So if I reload the app, it requests all the data that I have and loads in. So, well, basically this is what you can achieve. It looks pretty basic. And for the last part, I can show you something that looks more like a native application. So on this one, I've been working, actually this is the first app that the second one that I started working on, and this is the property management app, and it will be in production somewhere sometime this summer. Well, it's really basic so far, so nothing crazy you need to see, but you will see that Ionic offers you components that look like native components, although they are implemented in HTML and CSS, which, well, one side is that it's useful if you don't want to modify them, but once you start customizing, it will break really quickly. So in the first step that you saw in the gym app, there were no, I was intentionally skipping using Ionic components because I couldn't really customize them well. So this is a basic, well, this is a calendar which shows you the dates when a property is booked. You can ignore the listings, or you can exclude them from the calendar. And this is by the way an Ionic based component. This swipeable thing. It has a drawer. There is this menu, and if you don't want to modify them, they look pretty good. So that's it basically. It's nothing crazy, just normal iOS design. And by the way, it switches between designs. So if you are using an Android phone, it will show up as an Android design, and it uses Material Design for that. So here you can see that the buttons are a little different, and the overall outlook is different. And it also supports dark mode and light mode. And all of these took a lot of experimenting. For example, dark mode doesn't work on native Android, and I had to implement a workaround. So it does take some workarounds and other experimentation. But again, this is what I'm trying to achieve here, that there are only so many things you need to implement and so many workarounds you need to write. And once you have them, you can build on them. And I only have to maintain one code base, and all the applications will work off of that. So that is it. That's for the showcasing of the apps. And for the last part, I want to share with you what I've learned from. Well, I started using this tech last summer, so it's been roughly 9-10 months, and what I learned, what I think of this, of all this technology put together, I think it's really good. Well, it does have upsides and it does have its downs. And the good part is that it's very efficient. So I think it's more suitable for startups and people who want to develop things quickly, and for both platforms, but also maybe for the web. And this way you can save money on development. You can save a lot of complexity. And because Angular and NestJS is so similar in the way, like in coding style, and it's even the same language, I think it's a big extra that you don't need to learn different frameworks, different languages, and you can build a much more easily maintained app with this tech. Yeah, so that's the upside, and of course the downside is that it might not be the best performing setup. So for example, NestJS is a little slower, but you can also use Fastify adapter, which makes it quite fast, and it performs really well. And most of the time, application performance depends more on the developer, how a developer organizes the code and what kind of algorithm he or she writes. And after that comes only the technology itself that is used. And by the way, I can also show you that it's the property management app is installed on my phone, and it's not at all slow. Okay, maybe this will not work, but I can show you the drawer. It comes in from the side. And it's not laggy. It works pretty well. And yeah, so basically that's it. That's what I brought for you guys today. There's a lot of things to do. I did a major refactoring recently when I separated the applications into different repositories. And there's still a lot of work to do. And right now I'm working on this alone. So I don't have a lot of time for the hobby projects or stuff that are not needed for the partners whom I developed the apps for. But I hope to keep working on it, and maybe when it gets ready, I will move the base to an npm package and maybe open source it. Or, well, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Yeah, I'm also back now. So thanks, Danny, for your talk. It was great to see. I saw that you also did a lot of, so you mentioned that Angular, Ionic, NestJS, they bring a lot of value, but you also added a ton on top of it with those special animations and other utilities that you created. So is there a timeline where you, for open sourcing these components, even into the early stage, so people can help in documenting, or are you still not sure on that part?
Well, my first priority right now is I have a couple of deadlines that I need to meet. And once I'm done with that, I will start to separate the base project more, because right now it still has some project-related code. For example, the application configs are in the base project. After that, I can start thinking about how to make this usable for others. And well, that would also benefit me, because that way I will maybe get some more support on it, and we'll be able to create something useful for mobile development.
Thanks. We also have a question from Christian. Yeah, if you can answer that in shortly, I would appreciate it, because we are running out of time.
Well, the short answer is I don't know. This one, I'm with Angular and Ionic. Of course, I don't yet know how it looks in production, because these two apps are going to be launched during the summer. And they are also, both of the partners are startups. So it's not like millions of users are going to be using it from the first day. So I have some time to experiment and see how it goes. I don't know about React. I know that some companies use it, so it depends on what you need it for.
Thanks, Danny. Any other questions? Yeah, we have one from Monica.
Suggestions for beginners. Well, you need to experiment a lot and try a lot of different stuff, and see what you like and what you find interesting. and going down that path. I think that's what works well.
Okay, I think we're out of questions. So you guys see Donny's email on the hopefully under the nameplate. I think you can reach out to him if you have further questions. As far as I know, he's kind of a polite guy. I'm sure he will get back to you.